everyone, it's Brittany and welcome back to Brittany Unplugged. And as you can tell by the title of this video, we're going to be talking about the 5 things that you must never do when you're on a date. So sit back, relax, grab a pen, grab a notebook as I take you through the don'ts when you're on a date. So if you want to know the 5 things that you must never do on a date, then keep watching. So dating is a lot more casual these days for a number of reasons. Because of the social networking sites that we use, such as Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, and Twitter, a lot of friendships and relationships are forming because of those apps. Also because a lot of people are meeting on dating apps, and also because there's the emancipation of women. Because back then, women didn't have enough liberty and education to meet their own partner at their free will, and a lot of relationships were arranged. But nowadays, with a lot more liberation, a lot more education for women, they're not able to meet their partners at their own free will. As a result, more people are going on more dates and more questions are being asked on how do I behave on the date? What do I say on the date? What do I wear to the date? What do I talk about on the date? And so on and so forth. So let's get right into the video. Now, the first thing that you must never, ever do when you're on a date with someone, never bring up your ex or your past entanglements, because you are on the date with that person to solely focus on the kind of person that you're on the date with. You're supposed to focus on getting to know the person that you're on the date with. There's no reason for you to bring up your past or start, complaining about your ex, because this person you're on the date with is not your therapist. They're not your therapist. They don't care about your past. They're here to get to know you. And your exes or your past entanglements do not make up who you are. They want to get to know the real you rather than the people in your past. They want you to focus on them because they are your present. Now, the second thing that you must never, ever do on a date is never, ever be desperate. Do not approach the date with desperation. Signs of desperation include you become more of a yes person, so you agree with everything your date is saying so that you try and impress them. You lack authenticity, you're not being yourself, and you end up becoming a carbon copy of who you think you want to be, rather a malfunctioned carbon copy, because that is not who you are. The person you're on the date with wants to get to know you for you. They want to get to know the good side, the bad side, your flaws, and so on and so forth. They want to know what makes up who you are. So if you end up acting out of character and acting out of who you actually are, then it's going to turn the person off eventually. They may not realize it the first time because you may be a very good actress, but with time, let's say you keep on going on dates with the person, then they're going to be able to tell that this person is not who he or she says they are. So you need to be very careful that you don't try and become somebody else. Another sign is that you give exaggerated details about particular circumstances. You need to keep it real with them. You need to keep it 100 with them, because let's say your fake vibe matches their vibe, and then eventually with time, your mask begins to fall off and then your actual personality will show. What if your actual vibe doesn't match their personality, and with time, when they begin to see who you really are and you start falling out a lot more, and then the person is just going to call you fake and you're going to look like the bad person in the end. So be authentic, be you, don't be desperate. Don't talk about serious situations such as marriage on the first encounter, because that is also going to scare the person off. So just be yourself, play it cool, don't be overexcited, don't be desperate. Now, the third thing that you must never ever do when you're on a date with someone is don't overindulge in your life story, because the moment you start overindulging in your life story on the first, second, third encounter, this normally applies to the first few encounters when you're still getting to know each other, you end up sharing too much of your personal information with the person. You need to make sure that in order to avoid the feeling of disappointment, anger, or the feeling of attachment later on in the long run, when maybe you guys go on more dates, you need to make sure that your vulnerability is earned. Because if you share too much of your information with the person, that this person has so much information about you and they know what you're like when you're vulnerable. Vulnerability requires strength. The people who see you in your vulnerable moments should earn it, because it's not a side that you get to show all the time. So make sure that the person who is seeing that side of you has earned it. Not everyone deserves it. You don't need to share your life story like it's a buffet and you give every single person a piece of it, because not everyone deserves to know your life story. Because if you guys fall out, let's say you don't go on a date after the third date and then they go away, this stranger has gone away with your entire life story, then you're going to regret telling them everything that you did. So don't share too much. Say enough, but don't share too much, because you're going to end up feeling disappointed if they go away. Now, the fourth thing that you must never, ever do, especially on the first 3 dates, this actually applies to when you're still getting to know the person, when you've only been on maybe less than 3 dates, is if you talk about sensitive issues such as religion and politics. Now, your religious and political beliefs make up who you are. They're part of the things that make up who you are, but those are not the only things that make up who you are. Religion and politics are very sensitive issues, and they give rise to a lot of heated emotions, and they give rise to a lot of heated debates, and people feel particular ways about it. So it's better to talk about religion and politics when you've gotten to know the person, when you're more comfortable with the person, when you know that you've understood other aspects of the person, because there are a lot of friendships and relationships that end because of religious and political debates. That's why it's very, very sensitive to talk about. So rather get to know the other aspects of the person rather than getting to know their religious and political beliefs. Of course, if someone asks you what religion you are and stuff like that, you don't need to hide that because that is part of who you are, but don't make it the center of discussion. Rather wait until maybe 10 dates later, for example, when you've gotten to know other aspects of the person. And then let's say if things don't end on good terms, it won't be solely because of their religious or their political beliefs. It could probably be just because your vibes don't click. So don't make it a point to make it the center of discussion, because you give rise to a lot of unnecessary heated debates before you've actually gotten to know the person. Rather wait until you've gotten more comfortable with the person, and then you can talk about those issues with them. But on the first few dates, I recommend, in fact, no, you have to do this. The first few dates, get to know them more, and then the religious and the political beliefs can come in after that. So like I said, if things don't end your way, if you don't have that happy ending, it won't be because they believe in such or they follow this specific political party. It's because of it's just because of the fact that your personalities clashed and so on. So just be careful. Now, the fifth thing that you must never do, the fifth and the final thing that you must never do is don't ask questions to interrogate, ask to engage. Let me give you all a little example. So let's say you're on a date with someone, a guy or girl, whatever, and then they're telling you about the time that they snuck out of the house at the age of 9 years old without their mother's consent, and the mother was still in the house, and the mother thought that they were playing in the shed, for example. And then let's say they went to the shop, and then on the way back from the shop, they fell off their bike, and then they broke their ankle. And then they're telling you because it's funny, and it's a very funny story to look back on and laugh. And then you say, well, what were you doing leaving the house without your mother's consent in the first place? She was probably so worried about you. How could you do that? That's a question of interrogation. A question of engagement would be, oh my word, that's so funny. So what happened when your mom found out? Oh my word, did you go to the hospital? Did you go to the hospital? Are you okay? And everything. That's a question of engagement. You need to ask questions in a conversation to engage. I personally find it really annoying when someone has a question for everything that I am telling them. Like, of course, I don't mind being challenged. Being challenged is good. You need those people in your life that are going to challenge you. But even for the minor details, you have a question for it. Like, it becomes very uncomfortable and very difficult to deal with the person who always has a problem with what you have to say, who always has to counter every single thing that you have to say, because you end up draining and sucking the life and the good vibes out of the conversation. This person will probably not want to see you again. So be engaged, but do not interrogate. If this person's mother didn't even interrogate them to the extent that you are interrogating them, there's an issue. You are not their mother, so there's no need for you to interrogate them like that. You're not the police. You don't need to interrogate like that unless you are an undercover cop, but I highly doubt. So don't interrogate like that. Ask them questions to engage, and don't say that a question of interrogation is you challenging them. So I hope this video helped you, and I really hope that these steps help you, and so that when you go on your dates in the future, you take these steps into your stride. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. As always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and hit the bell to be notified when I post new videos. Stay safe, everyone. God bless you all. Bye!